So Steve Green says he just got married and had another baby again.
What I said was you would have to go back to my wedding day or the births of my sons to find me as giddy as I am here on Tuesday morning after the Iowa caucuses.
And just because you love to see the unfettered exercise of democracy and the voice of the people being expressed through their chosen people.
Oh, get real. I love to see Democrats flailing around in their own poop. And man, are they flailing, and man, is there a lot of poop. I'm so happy.
I'm trying to imagine Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid getting back on the plane and flying back to Kansas City and still wondering whether or not they won the Super Bowl. All these candidates are headed to New Hampshire, some of them expecting to have an even tougher battle, some of them expecting to have a tailwind, and none of them have any idea. And you got to imagine that there are a lot of donations that are just kind of, trapped in carbonite because people don't know, which way the wind's blowing.
It's just glorious. It's just, I made a joke. I was writing up a little primer for PJ Media so that people could get an understanding of how the Iowa caucuses are supposed to work, because it's kind of arcane and strange. And so I wrote up a kind of a silly, fun to read primer for this. And I joked, actually, it might have been before the Drunk blog that I made this joke. I said, yeah, this is how it's supposed to work, but that's before the infinite number of monkeys with an infinite number of wrenches go to work on the process. And when I wrote that, I really was expecting chaos, because I found out, they're using this app. And I say, this is got all kinds of opportunity for failure here. And the failure exceeded my wildest dreams.
Here's what I think happened. I think that Biden's people hacked the app in order to get Bernie essentially 0 votes. But also, Bernie's people hacked the app in order to make sure that Buttigieg didn't get any votes. And then Buttigieg's people hacked the app to make sure that Biden's people didn't get any votes. And long story short, when it was all said and done, all of these attempts to hack the app were successful, and nobody got any votes.
Nobody got any votes. When I went to bed at midnight Eastern or so, it might have been closer to 1 a.m. Eastern, I pulled up Drudge Report, which I don't do very often. But here we are, 4 hours after this thing was supposed to have ended, and the result totals are 0%, 0%, 0%, 0%, and I'm so happy.
I think that Biden's people are immediately in the clear. I mean, that guy doesn't even have a web-based fundraising operation or an email list. I mean, he's just he is not on the cutting edge of technology. The idea that some of his people actually hacked the system. Maybe they duct taped people's flip phones shut.
I don't know if I'll do this. I'll probably wait. There'll be plenty of opportunities for this downstream. But back when Obama was running, I talked about iconography and how unbelievably great his graphics were and everything else. And I'd seen this before. I hadn't really mentioned it until now. But the Joe Bus has a slogan on the front and on the side that says "No Malarkey," and it's written in a font that makes Comic Sans look like Helvetica. And there's two things about that. First of all, it's an invented font that looks terrible. But the second thing is, I don't believe anybody has used the term malarkey since 1963. No malarkey in my campaign,
I was raised by an Irish descended grandmother, and occasionally she would use the word malarkey.
From the 1920s, perhaps, or...
Yeah, I wouldn't even say 1963. By the time Jack Kennedy was in the Senate, that was gone.
No malarkey.
She would be, Nan would be 105 years old this year. So it goes back.
No malarkey.
I'm really worried about overconfidence, but for the life of me, I just don't see how. It's not even a question of how strong Trump is. It's I don't see how these candidates could beat anybody. I don't see how Warren could beat anybody. I don't see how Bernie Sanders could beat anybody, and I don't see how Joe Biden could beat anybody. He's going to make so many mistakes. If he is the nominee, it's going to be so funny for a while, and then it's going to be tragic. Then it's going to be really actually pretty sad, right, Fat?
I still think that they really believe that people hate Donald Trump so much that they're just looking for anybody but Trump. I think they really have this attitude that the American public is going to rise up to throw this, corrupt, lying, crass president out on his ear. And so I really don't think they think it matters that much who they nominate. And I think they're in for a terrible surprise on that front.
Well, they managed to choose the three people who are biggest liars, more corrupt, and longer careers than Donald Trump. And I'm simply amazed. I think that after this thing, they're going to be in full-on panic mode. And that's when teams make their biggest mistakes, when they're really freaked out.
Yeah, boy, that is such a good point. And these wounds are self-inflicted. I mean, Trump is there just enjoying the results, but it's not like he went to Iowa or had his secret operatives go to Iowa and screw up the app. This is completely self-inflicted.
This is the $8 billion Obamacare website that doesn't have a shopping cart team.
Who was that? Was it Steve? Did you post that to Instapundit, the Scott Adams tweet that basically said?
No, Glenn did that one, but that was great. Tell him what it was.
You probably know it better than I do, but Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, tweeted something about if the Democrats hope to run our healthcare system after they win the White House, I hope that it doesn't involve an app.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, man. It's just you want to talk about a target-rich environment. I don't have an idea what I want to talk about today because there's so many things.
Well, because I have to do 2 episodes, my first episode is going to be what we've been talking about.
Okay, so just by the way, if I was to write, if I wanted to do like a parody of this whole thing, the whole Democrats and their corruption and their manipulation and their vote counting and cheating and all the rest of it, let's just say that I wanted to write a little parody about that, and I wanted to come up with a name for their organization, for their secret cheating organization. I would come up with something like, I don't know. How about Shadow? Let's call it Shadow. Shadow Inc. Oh, no, you can't call it Shadow. That's too on the nose. Nobody would believe that stuff. When in fact, the actual name of the company is Shadow. Shadow is the name of the company.
Well, the Shadow is, and it's funded by another company called Acronym.
Acronym.
Yes. Exactly. Why not just call yourselves Universal Exports and get it over with? I mean, honestly. Shadow, but Shadow is behind this? Well, not actually Shadow, because Shadow is actually owned by Acronym. Really? So you have Bond villains naming your companies now.
I put up on somebody's Facebook item about this that it's pretty much the plot of a Robert Ludlum novel had Robert Ludlum just suffered traumatic brain injury.
Oh my God!
So you've got
the Democrats' actual campaign manager is a guy. What's his name? Ernst Blofeld. Oh, really? Yeah. And who's his number 2 man? A guy named Scaramanga. Not much known about him. And another guy named Auric Goldfinger? It's just an odd group of people, really. They're run by Bond villains. Shadow.
And Shadow is being run by a Clinton associate, one of Hillary Clinton's associates, and on the board of directors of Acronym, I think David Plouffe, the former Obama aide or counselor, is on that board. So it's a hot mess. So I hate this though, because really, guys, we got to figure out a way to do this show live, because we record this stuff, and literally as we're sitting here now, we're about 3 or 4 hours out from when the Iowa State Democratic Party said it will release some of the results from results.
We might be able to do it live in a group FaceTime, and then somebody does a screen capture of the group FaceTime.
I think technologically,
in 2 hours they're going to announce that Pete Buttigieg has 22% of the vote. And what about the rest of the people?
Talk about a tailwind.
We don't have that data.
The thing is, and what I wanted to do for my segment, I know Scott's got dibs, but what I wanted to talk about was maybe the best meme reactions and conspiracy theories to all of
That
this.
sounds good.
To
That
just
sounds good.
cool.
just be loose and fun.
And I'll tell you what I'm hearing, because I watch mostly CNN, because I think that's going to give me kind of what the left is thinking. And over and over, guests and hosts on that, when they get too deep into the frustration about how badly run this is, they immediately go back and talk about how badly run the Republican caucuses were in 2016. And how they had to change the ultimate winner of that.
You mean?
Well, we're not still waiting
You mean
for
the
the
year that
results
we kicked your asses?
Oh, I'm sorry. What, Bill?
Oh, you mean 2016, the year when we incompetently kicked your asses?
Yeah,
Well,
that's the year.
they're trying to disabuse us of any notion that it could possibly be a Democrat incompetence. That it's actually got to be Iowa incompetence, like it's Iowans themselves who are incapable of running a caucus or any kind of electoral process.
Oh, except that Tom Perez put up that beautiful thing. I think it was on Facebook yesterday. At least that's where I saw it.
He posted it on Medium.
That's right. It was on Medium, bragging about the 3 years of hard work that the Democrats have done putting the Iowa caucuses together, and it's really going to shine or whatever on Monday night.
It's going to be the most transparent primary ever. Which is true.
I can't see the results.
When it's 0 to 0 to 0 to 0 to 0, I don't think anybody can claim that there's any particular bias in that thing yet.
I think they should just call this a scrimmage and move on. It was shirts and skins.
It was an exhibition caucus.
They played it to a tie.
Ooh, there's the newest thing on Instapundit. Oh, that was you, Steve. It's the day after Iowa, and Joe Biden, after 47 years in politics, still hasn't won a primary or a caucus.
Is that true?
It's true.
He's a shoo-in.
So he ran for president before, though, didn't he?
He's never won
Electability,
a primary or
Bill.
a caucus.
He never won nothing?
I mean, he won some offices, but
Yeah.
He won a
Delaware.
knife fight with Corn Pop.
But
Chain fight.
so when he was running for president before, he never won a primary or a caucus?
No, not once.
He performed more push-ups, though, than Geraldine Ferraro back in 1984. He challenged her to a push-up contest, and he won that handily.
Handily, yeah.
And that's not bad for a girl. Because I thought Ferraro would take him.
Do you know how happy I am right now?
So anyway, let's do that in some fashion. This is going to be kind of seat of our pants, realizing that everything could be upended at 5 p.m. Eastern on the day we record this, when we suddenly realize the towering incompetence of the Iowa Democratic Party. And, Tom Perez, I'm sure the DNC chair, has flown in there to whip them back into shape and to restore party discipline.
Yeah, but this isn't just a state party event. The DNC is in on this from the beginning, as Tom Perez outlined on Medium in a lot of detail. You got pros going in, running these big money campaigns. I mean, Joe Biden doesn't show up just on caucus day and go, well, if you'd like to vote for me, that'd be great. No malarkey. I mean, no, these are big organizations that are deeply embedded with the state party. This is a failure from, it has nothing to do with the local precinct chairs who are doing their best to run these things in, the local gym or the local library, whatever. This is a failure from the top down, and it I'm so happy.
And it's not just like a mic went dead. This is a product launch, right? This is the Apple conference. This is a product launch.
It's like new Coke, except all the cans were empty.
Whoever would have won, because it's over now, really, it is. Whoever would have won in Iowa would have carried that tremendous bounce, right? Well, I won in Iowa. They will eventually figure out who won in Iowa, but now that bounce is overshadowed by the fact that of the incompetence of it. And it's like you have this big product launch. Here comes the brand new 2022, Canyonero, and it's like, and the car's not there, and it's like, well, you'll get a chance to advertise for the Canyonero again, but you're never going to get a chance to have that big splash again. You're going to look like idiots.
I'll tell you one thing, though, and this was before I knew that everything was all messed up. I was actually, to some degree, impressed with CNN's coverage the night of the caucus. Do you think I should turn the notifications off on my phone while we're recording a show? Oh,
something new could come through.
It's a message from my daughter, who's a jungle missionary in Bolivia, with some pictures. It's delightful for those of you who were curious. So anyway, what I was impressed with was CNN put 4 or 5 different correspondents, including Jake Tapper, on the ground at caucus sites. And they had cameras in those locations, and they kind of walked around the room. A lot of these are like gymnasiums and big community rooms and things like that. And they were walking around, kind of giving you a flavor for what this is like on the ground. And they're like, over here are the Elizabeth Warren people. And you see this like 100 people standing kind of by themselves in a little group. And over here are Pete Buttigieg's people, the people who are caucusing for him. And, and then some lady in a t-shirt comes up and says Amy Klobuchar has just gotten enough supporters to be viable. They had to get 70 in this particular caucus or whatever. And actually, it was kind of cool to see the way that operates. I've always heard them talking about it, but you didn't really get a sense of it. And it was also kind of a little bit silly because it was kind of like picking teams, when you're a kid. And so it's like, okay, you go stand over there with Betsy's people. You go stand over there with Petey's people. But I actually liked the way CNN covered that aspect of it. And fortunately, they did that because they had nothing else for all night long.
Yeah, an Army guy years ago told me one of my favorite Cold War jokes. The scene is it's the streets of Paris right after World War III, and a couple of Soviet generals are watching their troops and their tanks march in victory down the streets of Paris, and one Soviet general leans over to the other and says, "So which side won the air war?" And what I would like to see, it's a great gag. What I would like to see is Trump on election night giving his victory speech saying, "So who did win Iowa?"
Well, it might get better from here, folks. We just don't know.
We just don't know.
So the other topic I would like to talk about, by the way, let me get my glasses on because I can't see a thing here. The other topic was kind of a mix of two things. Number one is the talk from Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren about how if they get elected, they're going to forgive student loan debts. And there was an article that I saw that I think was in Forbes about what happens if that actually happens. And then the other thing was Elizabeth Warren saying that she has met a 9-year-old transgender person that she is going to use to interview her candidates for Secretary of Education and then ask the 9-year-old transgender individual which person she ought to pick. Essentially, she's going to have... Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
That's all I got.
It's an embarrassment of riches. I'm simply overloaded with endorphins now. Please have a transgendered person who's too young to have a sexual preference. Please, by all means, use that person to interpret the truth for the American people. I can't believe such a thing is even possible. We could never be that lucky.
Well, she wants to make sure that they pick a sensitive enough person. You don't want to wind up with another Betsy DeVos.
Hang on here, Scott. Is this 9-year-old a transgender person of color?
Not clear.
Oh,
not yet.
Not clear on that.
That could really sink Warren.
No. It depends on how they will identify as they get older. Whether they want to identify as a person of color or not.
At the age of 9,
you go
certainly
full Sean. What's his name?
By the age of 9, you certainly know which sex you prefer. But how can you even tell what color you are until you're older and you can really think that through?
Precisely correct.
Yeah. So anyway, I'd like to talk a little bit about that whole idea of, forgiving $1.6 trillion in student loan debt in one foul
I want a refund.
in one foul sweep, as a friend of mine once said.
One foul sweep?
One foul sweep. Yes, I had actually
Love it.
It was a guy on the radio.
That's good.
And he used the phrase "one foul sweep."
Well,
Epic. That's a good expression to use for all intensive purposes.
sometimes the truth is on the things we say that are wrong.
That's right. Well, irregardless, let's go ahead and see what. It just sets Steve's teeth on edge there. What does that expression mean, by the way? Setting your teeth on edge. Does it mean you just put the edges of your teeth together?
Yeah.
It's the grimace.
One of the weirdest things ever. My wife is one of the smartest people I know, one of the best spoken people I know. But when she was pregnant with our first child, she could no longer tell whether you were supposed to say infer or imply. In fact, it's not that she couldn't tell. She got them wrong for the last 4 or 5 months she was pregnant with Preston. And then it lasted for about 4 or 5 months longer after he was born. And then one day it snapped right back into place.
The inferrer is the receiver and the implier is the transmitter.
Yes. Unless you're pregnant with my firstborn son.
See, I understood the difference between those two words until Bill just explained it. Now I'm not sure. Okay, so this is our Backstage episode. I'm Scott Ott with Stephen Green. I thought we should do introductions 20 minutes into the show. With Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, and Right Angle Backstage is really just a meeting. It's not really a show. So up until this point,
That's for sure.
If you have been entertained, you need to revoke that, and we can move on from here with the actual dry meeting part of things. So my 2 episodes are going to be the Iowa caucus kerfuffle, and then the student loan forgiveness, etc. of the Democrats. I'm writing this down, loan forgiveness. So that's Ott there. And then Green, Stephen Green, you are also going to host an episode this week by Bill's command. And what would you like to talk about?
I want to talk about your favorite reactions and conspiracy theories to the big old mess. And maybe you have a few of your own just to play it fast and loose, because it's too much fun not to. And sometimes when we do one of these, it's a chance to bring sort of that backstage spirit to a regular segment for our wider audience there, which is a lot of fun.
Just get a little taste of totally unscripted, unplanned, not premeditated television.
Did you guys see I made up a little meme for Facebook this morning. I sent it to the Skype chat. If you want to pull that up, it's just,
was this the Joe Biden one?
Thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in Slack today at my other job at PJ Media, somebody wanted to know if there was a kind of family-friendly version of cluster that he could use at PJ Media. And the best version of that I could come up with was Iowa caucus.
Yeah, it's replaced goat rodeo.
Yeah. Wow, that's a real Iowa caucus.
That, or as Rush Limbaugh called it, the Hawkeye Cauceye.
Oh, man.
Always love that phrase.
I'd managed not to think about Rush all day. I've been having such a good time with this. I just,
Yeah, we recorded an episode of Bill Whittle Now about it yesterday.
Yeah, I saw that go live yesterday, or maybe it was this morning. I haven't watched it yet. To be honest, I don't know if I'm going to watch that one.
Yeah. Mark Stein was in the studio today, and that's got to be a tough gig. That's just coming in and you're trying to do an entertaining show with that, kind of everybody knows.
Yeah.
Was he giddy going yes all the time, or was it different than that?
I don't think he's that eager to step behind the EIB microphone, but he was doing a good job and being entertaining and funny and analyzing all this kind of stuff. But you just like, how do you do that? Come in for 3 hours and do that show when every single person in the audience knows what's going on?
It's the closest thing I can come up with an analogy would be if Johnny Carson, instead of just up and retiring one year, had announced that he had some horrible sickness, and then Jay Leno would have to come in 2 or 3 nights a week while Johnny's undergoing chemo or surgery or whatever, and try and host a show like nothing's going on.
Well, I had somebody, one of the people who commented on the episode of Bill Whittle Now that we did on the topic of Rush's diagnosis, said that Rush should contact Ruth Bader Ginsburg's doctor and find out how they're managing to keep her going. And I thought, oh, not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so Stephen, we're going to do the entertaining conspiracy theories and reactions and memes.
Yeah,
or whatever.
your favorite wacko or hot takes, smart takes, over the edge.
And by the way, before we introduce Bill's topic, just for those of you who are watching this, Bill's new podcast about the Cold War, What We Saw, is starting to roll out now. And the interview with Peter Robinson, the President Reagan speechwriter, famous for writing the Tear Down This Wall speech, is already out there, as well as episode 1 of the Cold War series. And we are linking to that on at billwhittle.com using the YouTube version of it because it's easier to link than it is to link a podcast episode from our site. But in case you haven't figured it out yet, your screen didn't freeze up on a single image. There only is a single image on that. It's an audio program. I've had a number of emails and people making comments are like, but the picture's not moving. I'm like, yeah, it's a podcast. how do you explain?
It's a shame.
How do you explain what that is?
But needless to say, I mean, it's something like the total is, it's nearly 12, 13 hours, something like that.
Oh, wow.
And that's just too much video to produce. The expense of filling in all that picture and getting the rights and the sets of stuff. It's a podcast. I'm very, very happy with it. But
it sounds. No and the key is use your ears. Just pretend like for those of you who are well, into your dotage as I am. Just pretend you're listening to the old radio box.
It is like it's like it's like a radio production. There's lots of it's a story told and sound effects and things like that.
No, I'm glad you did it in podcast form because people who saw the Cold War on TV thought the Soviets won, but people who listened to it on the radio thought that we won.
Are you being serious or are you making a Kennedy-Nixon joke?
I'm making a Kennedy-Nixon joke.
Good. Oh, that's awesome.
Thank you.
So therefore, Bill Whittle, this show has a very small element of video to it. It's just really from the waist up and we hardly move, but There is something to look at. So what would you like to do for your episode of Right Angle?
I think I'm just going to fall back on what I usually do.
Something brilliant?
No, it's going to be another lightning round.
Yes! I've been waiting for the infection to spread.
I can't risk. I can't refuse. There's just too many fun little things to cover. And I cannot not do it.
I gave serious thought to doing a lightning round, not because I love that format, but because I thought if I do it, then it's kind of like almost anything else. Like once I started cutting my hair like this, you notice everybody else stopped doing it this way. So even the military has gone to like shoulder length hair now because once I started wearing my hair this way, they were like, oh, that's not cool.
No, it's going to be a lightning round. I'm looking at it and there's like at least 5 things I want to talk about and I can't do all 5. So I'll do
another
one of my lightning rounds.
Or a thunder round or something.
Since my wedding and my son's.
The podcast version of it will be a thunder round. That's okay, so that's what we'll do then. And this episode of Right Angle is produced by, for, and what's the other preposition?
About?
Of.
Around.
Of, by, and for the people. And you members know who you are. We are grateful for your support. You have made this possible, and everything else we do here at BillWhittle.com. We're very grateful for that. The comments section is alive as usual. If, by the way, you're a member and yet just because you're lazy, you're watching this on YouTube, I mean, check out the website every once in a while, because your fellow members are over there engaged in discussion. They need to hear from you because you're smarter than them and they need your wisdom. And so you can not only comment under each of these videos behind the veil, so to speak, at this private elements of the website, but you can also read and write the member blog, and we don't want to miss out on your insight. So please do join us over there if you're not making a habit of doing that. So we are about to record this week's episodes of Right Angle for I almost said Stephen Whittle. For Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks for watching.